Hello and welcome to Unstuck with Charlie. My name is Charlie Arms. In my last video, we started a conversation about racism, and we discussed a Christian and biblical worldview about it. Today, I want to have an honest conversation about racism and bigotry in the church. It pains me to say that in 2024, we are still having these conversations, but it is important. It's important for us to talk about it, to address it, to be honest about it. Now, I am currently blessed to be the pastor of a church with a diverse congregation of people from a wide range of ethnicities. Now, we don't hide this, but we celebrate the uniqueness and diversity of our ethnic blend. We appreciate each other's culture and heritage, and we find ways to celebrate and honor this. Now, we aren't perfect, and in fact, our journey as a church has had its moments where people didn't always embrace our diversity. However, today, we are a strong, healthy, vibrant community of faith, and I'm really proud of that. There is a genuine love and embrace here, and both our church and community are better for it. I've served over 35 years in ministry now, and I've had a few encounters with Christians, to put it mildly, who claimed they loved the Lord, but had negative perspectives and opinions about people with different skin colors. In fact, I kid you not, I started pastoring a new church years ago in another state, another time. During my first month at the church, I had an older man come into my office to tell me, on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, of course, that he'd support the church as long as we didn't welcome any of those, and he used the N word in our church. Now, I'm from the South, and contrary to popular opinion, the South isn't full of a bunch of racists, but everywhere you go, you'll run into a few, and I was surprised this man would go out of his way to tell his new pastor something like this. My response was very quick. I told him he might want to leave the church right now because our church will be for all people, and I will not allow anyone else to say otherwise. And I said, as long as I'm the pastor here, is not going to change. I encouraged him to repent, to seek God regarding his attitude toward others. He was far from the love of God and had no clue about true Christianity and biblical teaching. Now, if you missed my last video, I touched on the biblical perspective regarding race and ethnicity. Even in our current city and location, we had someone who attended the church for a while and stated to one of our staff members, an African-American pastor on our staff, no less, that I know Charlie wants the church to be diverse, but this is a white church and a white community. Can you believe it? Well, you might find these comments hard to believe, but I'm sorry to burst your bubble. These type of comments happen more often than you realize, and that I would like to admit. If someone leaves our church because they don't want to be around people, someone of a different ethnicity, I will help escort them out. It's sad and disappointing, but it's real. I won't put up with it, and I will address any issue like that right away. Sadly, though, many pastors just don't want to address it or deal with it. Maybe there's money involved. You don't want to lose people. They'd rather cater to people than address the issues. So I'm sharing this with you as my lead up to the topic today. How can we overcome racism in the church? I've got 3 quick tips that I want to share with you. One, we have to teach our people correctly. Many churches have adopted a secular, that's a word we use to describe something non-Christian or worldly. Many churches have adopted a secular approach, a worldly approach to the issue of ethnicity that incorporates worldly points of view. Points of view that feature evolutionary teaching or teaching that doesn't come explicitly from the Bible. Now, in my last video, I pointed out that we have to understand that all humans come from Adam and Eve. We have a common ancestry. The Bible teaches that we are one blood. That's a term that reiterates that we all share the same genetic and blood heritage back at our origin. We also must teach that Jesus' sacrifice on the cross wasn't just for one type of person, but for the world. God so loved the world that he gave his only son. Right? We have to approach race and ethnicity with strong, consistent, and bold, unwavering teaching. And if we teach a biblical Christian worldview, this will get our minds right. We got to address some things in the church, right? So, some have used the Old Testament prohibitions for Jewish people to actually perpetuate the idea that we shouldn't mix with each other and keep to our own race, but those prohibitions weren't about skin color or ethnicity. They were about spiritual purity, not racial purity. So not only do we have to teach boldly, we have to correct bad theology. We have to overcome the fear of the unknown. That's the second one, right? That's the second one. We got to teach, but we got to overcome the fear of the unknown. Listen, growing up as a child in the 70s, some of you may be able to relate to this. I had parents that experienced an era of great racial and ethnic division. My parents were generally kind to others, but they weren't Christians growing up, and they developed worldly viewpoints about races and ethnicities that were not healthy. They wouldn't go out of their way to be mean to anyone, but they would avoid contact as much as possible. Let me tell you something. When you isolate yourself away from others and you never get to know anyone of a different culture or ethnicity, you are in the area of the unknown. And people, we generally fear what we don't know. Now, it wasn't until I went off to college where I played football and spent considerable time with people from different backgrounds, different skin color, different culture, that I started getting familiar with and comfortable around a variety of people. Now, I've also been blessed to meet and get to know and become friends with people of a wide range of cultures and ethnicities in the church over the past 35 years. So, tip number 2 is that we have to overcome the fear of the unknown. We need to spend time with each other, spend time with people from different cultures, and learn to talk and experience things together in order to move past this idea that we are all too radically different. The fact is, we all share most things in common. We all struggle with the same sins. We all have the same financial woes. We all struggle with relationships and parenting and work. We have way more in common than we do our differences, right? So I think that every church should create opportunities to introduce your team to people of different cultures and backgrounds. So thirdly, we need to be intentional. That's right, intentional. When we launched our current church 10 years ago, we stated in the vision of our church from the very beginning that we wanted to be a diverse church with people from different backgrounds, ethnicities, and perspectives. I mean, it wasn't a hard decision because this was a pretty diverse area, divided but diverse. It hasn't always been easy. We've had roadblocks along the way, but you have to be intentional. You have to decide that it's important. You might say, well, my community is 95% white. My community is 95% black or 95% Latino. So what? Bring in guests. There's always the 5%, right? But bring in guests. You got to break down walls. You got to decide to be diverse, but you can teach your people. You can introduce them to new things. You can teach them. You can help them grow. You can help them expand their knowledge, right? Get more comfortable. Now, maybe your church isn't interested, but you are on a personal level. I want to encourage you to find someone of a different skin color, different culture, different perspective, and get to know them. Be a neighbor in the biblical sense of the word. All right, so I've given you 3 tips that I hope will help, and I hope this video has been informative, and if you like this content, press that like button down below the video. Consider subscribing to the channel. I'd really appreciate it. Let me know what you think about this video in the comments section below. And as always, have a great day, and let's move forward.